Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Blog Talk Radio's, the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, coming to you live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we do every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our intro music is provided from the Podshow PodSafe Music Network. Check it out at music.podshow.com. Also, feel free to email your topics for discussion, suggestions, and comments to incoherentramblings@live.com.
And here we are. This is Christopher, sans Eric. This is June the 3rd, 2010, and you are listening to the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E, broadcasting live from the internationally famous C&E studios right here in Greensboro, North Carolina, USA. Throw that in there because we have actually quite a few international listeners. In fact, I believe we have as many international listeners as we do here in the United States of America. So welcome to all, whether you're listening to this live or if you are streaming it after the fact, either streaming it from your PC or have downloaded on MP3 player. We thank you for joining us and listening. Let's see here. You can go to blogtalkradio.com/incoherent ramblings. That will get you to our website, the Blog Talk Radio site, as it were. There you can find out how to contact us via Twitter. You can follow us, follow our tweets. You can friend us on MySpace and Facebook. You can also friend us at Blog Talk Radio if you have a user ID there. You can call us when we're on the air at 646-716-6928. You can even go and download our show on iTunes. Literally minutes, if even minutes, in a very short amount of time after the show is done, the podcast is automatically uploaded to iTunes and available for immediate download. You can go download it there. One better, you can even go into iTunes and, you can go in and subscribe, and then all you have to do is nothing. Every time you go into iTunes, it'll automatically download any new episodes that have not been downloaded yet, and then you can sync that up to your MP3 player and, I don't know, listen to us. Maybe if you take public transportation to work, you can listen maybe if you're taking a jog, or, if you don't have the easiest time going to sleep at night, you can always listen to us as you're going to sleep, and maybe we can enhance your sleeping experience from the sheer boredom. So here we are, June the 3rd, almost halfway through the year, getting close to it. And Eric is not with me tonight. For those of you who are new to the show, this is the Incoherent Ramblings of C&E. The C is Christopher, that's me, and the E is Eric, my co-host. He is not here today. He is very sick. He called me this morning, and as soon as I heard him say hello, I knew it wasn't looking good for him being here tonight. He sounded really, really bad. He said he was feeling a little bit better than when he woke up, and he hoped that he would actually continue to feel better and be here today, but not to count on it. Well, maybe around 4:30, I got another phone call from him, and he sounded much worse. He sounded really bad, really scratchy throat, and he just sounded really tired, and obviously he's not coming. So I'm here down in the internationally famous C&E studios by myself. Don't have Eric and don't have Bella, the show's official mascot, my beloved, beautiful pit bull. She is actually gone with, I actually just got back from taking her to my parents' house. As our listeners know, I got married on May the 1st, and we elected not to take an immediate honeymoon. My new stepdaughter, my wife's daughter, we wanted to have our wedding on a weekend. We had her, that she was with her mother, so she could obviously be part of the wedding. However, we wanted to take our honeymoon on a weekend that we did not have her. Obviously, the reasons there are apparent. And so we picked this weekend when we knew it was a weekend she would be with her father. So we're leaving actually tomorrow morning. Friday morning, we're going to drop off her daughter, drop her off at preschool, and then hit the road from there. There was a lot of people asking us where we were going, and making suggestions on where we should go, and people. And we all we asked for people's input. It's funny. At one point, we were planning on going to the mountains of North Carolina, to which got elicited an overwhelmingly negative reaction from people who thought we should at least go to the beach. Some people were questioning why we weren't going to the Caribbean, Bermuda, Mexico, Hawaii, some more exotic, possibly even more romantic destination. What it boiled down to is we talked about it, and Lauren asked me, why couldn't we just go where we wanted to go? Which, of course, obviously that's, what we wanted to do. But, if people thought it was a weird place for us to go, then they could be happy thinking it was weird, and we would be happy knowing that we were going on a trip that we wanted to do. So we ended up choosing to go to Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. And the cool thing about it is Lauren has never been, ever, in her entire life. I lived there for 9-10 months when I was contracting with a law firm. And even though I lived there, I'm not extremely familiar with the city. However, I am, I know my way around it, and I know how to take people and have them enjoy the scenes and the sights, and keep them away from the things that are not as desirable to see. As a matter of fact, Eric, my co-host, and I, we went in December of 2008. Is that correct? Yes, December 2008. And he said he had only been 2 times previously, both times for business. Mixed in a little pleasure in the evenings, but not much, and he was not impressed. In fact, he was quite disappointed. So he wasn't expecting much. And on our way home, he was very, very pleased, and he told me that he was very happy that he had gone with me, because he actually had seen the city in a way he had never seen it before, because I knew how to shield him from the things that were not so pleasant. If you go and do the right things in the right sections, it's actually a very nice town, and there is plenty there to be proud of if you are an American. So my wife and I, we like museums, so we've got the Smithsonian's. Believe it or not, I've never even been to all the memorials, the monuments, other than driving past them. Excuse me. I have not actually been to them. So we're both looking forward to it. We really are. We have a reservation for a guided tour of the U.S. Capitol building Saturday at 12:20. A representative, a staff member from one of North Carolina's, my state's senators will meet us there at the Visitor Center and give us a guided tour. Looking forward to that. We had also requested of the same senator, Senator Richard Burr, we had also requested a tour of the White House. However, the White House is closed Saturday for a special function, a private function, and the White House is closed on Sundays and Mondays for tours. Therefore, we were unable to get a scheduled guided tour of the White House. However, they suggested we could go to the Visitor Center, which is all well and good, but we actually wanted a tour of the actual White House itself. So, hey, they always say leave wanting more, right? So that'll give us something to do the next time we're up there. Nonetheless, there are plenty of things to keep us busy. You've got the Old Town trolleys where you can actually get on and off, or buy one ticket, and that price of that ticket allows you unlimited entries and exits off the trolley tour, as it goes throughout multiple stops throughout the city. So you don't have to worry about parking or driving, which can be quite miserable there. So some of you, probably all of you that are listening, are thinking, but Christopher, how about your leg? As you know, I injured my leg playing a softball game. Not even a week after we were married, on May the 7th, tore my right calf muscle, ripped it from the bone. The emergency room doctor said 6 weeks. I would not be able to walk on it in 6 weeks. The orthopedic doctor the following Monday, on the 10th, said probably 4 weeks. And then he kind of made a face and said, well, I don't want to assign a time to it because different people heal at different rates. He said, the good news is it will heal without surgery. I'm going to be honest with you, those first 2 weeks, he told me not to put any weight on it at all, and I didn't. I came back for my follow-up on the 24th, and he asked me, how did it feel putting weight on it? I said, I haven't. And he looked at me kind of funny, and I said, you told me not to put any weight on it until I came back. To which he said he wished his children listened that well, which I thought was funny. However, they took off my cast. They put me in a boot. They attempted to. My foot literally would not flex in the necessary direction in order to put the boot on, so I was unable to wear the boot until Sunday. Since putting the boot on and also soaking my leg in hot water with Epsom salts, each day has seen a dramatic increase in improvement. And the past few days, I've been able to do several things, walking on both feet with my crutches. And then today, believe it or not, tomorrow is Friday. Tomorrow will be, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks from the injury. Today, one day short of 4 weeks from the injury, I actually walked out of my office, up my stairs, hooked Bella up to her harness, and took her for a short walk, brought her back, got the mail, walked back down the stairs, and got in my chair in my office, all without my crutches. And I've done quite a few things since that walk this afternoon without my crutches. My leg is tired. I'm sure it's going to ache. However, it doesn't feel, it's not pain. It's not like it's damaging it. So I'm very pleased at the progress that I've made since putting this boot on. It has really made wonders in allowing my foot to get back right in the right, at the right angle from my leg instead of being pressed down. So I'm still going to take my crutches, If my leg gets tired, I will use them. If they have a mobility scooter or a wheelchair available and might get tired, I can, use one of those as well. However, I'm going to tough it out as much as I can, and I'm going to just go and have fun, and hopefully my wife and I will just have a blast, and I'll be able to show her a lot of the sites that she's looking forward to seeing. In addition to the monuments and the memorials and Capitol Hill and Library of Congress and White House, we are also going to go to the National Cathedral. It is our nation's official cathedral. It is an Episcopal church, part of the Anglican Communion. The sixth largest cathedral in the world. A lot of people don't really think that's a big deal. But if you really think about it, if you really sit down and think about it, all the large cathedrals in Europe, and America has the sixth largest one in the world. To me, that's fairly impressive. An absolute beautiful structure, a beautiful church. I highly recommend, regardless of your religious beliefs, regardless of your belief, your theism, I would highly recommend visiting the National Cathedral if you're in the Washington, D.C. area, because it truly, truly is a remarkable, beautiful building. It's a beautiful stained glass, just absolutely beautiful. And if you are a Christian and would not be, or if you aren't and you would not be offended by going to a Christian church service, I would also recommend, if you have the time, to go to the Sunday morning service there. It is a unique experience. So there we go. That's what we're doing. This was going to be the post-camping show, because last week was the pre-camping show, but I did not go camping because of my injury to my leg. I thought crawling in and out of a tent would have been far too difficult. And Eric did go camping. However, he's not here because he's sick. So I will just go ahead and kind of fill in real quick. They had a blast. They had a great time. The weather was absolutely wonderful until, unfortunately, they were breaking down camp Monday morning. It started raining a little bit. Other than that, the weather was beautiful. They had a Boston butt that they cooked on a rotisserie over the fire. They had an entire sirloin roast. They had multiple sirloin New York strips. Lots of good food, lots of good fun, lots of card playing, and everybody had a great time. So that's the wrap up. The post camping report is that a thoroughly good time was had by all. I don't even know if that's grammatically correct. I don't care. They had a great time. So that wraps up the post-camping report. I also wrapped up the pre-honeymoon report. Next week, we will give you the post-honeymoon report. I'm hoping we have good weather. From what I've seen, it looks like we're going to have decent weather while we are up there. But, this time of the year, weather can be temperamental. But regardless of what the weather is, we're going to make the best of it. And we're going to enjoy it. Let's see. Let's just take I'll give you a weather report right now for Washington, D.C. Tomorrow, high of 91. Hot. 30% chance of an afternoon thunder shower. When it's that hot, it's definitely possible. It's the same thing. Next day, high of 91, PM thunderstorms, 40%. And then Sunday, a lot cooler, going from a high of 91 Friday and Saturday to a high of 80. Partly cloudy, a stray thunderstorm here or there, only 30% chance. So really not that bad. And then Monday coming home, 84 degrees for a high and 0% precipitation, which is always my preference for driving. I don't like driving in the rain. So it looks like we have the potential for some really good weather for our trip, so I'm looking forward to it. So there you go. I've rambled for 20-some minutes, giving you the post-camping wrap-up and the pre-honeymoon wrap-up, so let's get on with the show. Our Tales of Survival website has given me absolutely nothing again. So we'll just skip that page. Heroes and Angels? Seriously. I mean, the story about the homeless people running again. That's it. I mean, what is going on here? But here we do have wonderful news. The wonderful world of news. Here we have some good stuff. First, I mean, someone won my lottery. You know what I'm saying? The Powerball was up to $261.6 million, and someone won it, and it wasn't me. Actually, I didn't buy a ticket, so you don't buy a ticket, you can't really win, right? However, on pretty much every time there's a big jackpot, we usually run that story because it's a cool thing. Cleveland, Ohio has a $261.6 million Powerball winner just weeks after the state joined the multi-state lottery. The Ohio lottery says the only ticket matching all 6 numbers in Wednesday night's drawing was sold at a store in Sunbury, about 20 miles north of Columbus. Lottery officials plan to present the hub carry out with $100,000 Thursday morning for selling the winning ticket. Store owner Ralph Smith said it's the most exciting day in the history of the 61-year-old business. He hopes the winner is someone who needs the money. The drawing winning numbers were 4, 9, 14, 39, 43. The Powerball was 38. Ohio retailers sold their first Powerball tickets April 16th. Powerball is now played in 42 states, the District of Columbia, and the Virgin Islands. So as they add states, it only makes the odds even more insurmountable. But yes, people do win. We have you remember I can only even how long ago, many months ago, possibly even a year ago. I don't remember the exact time frame, but we did have a story here on our show about the hoax with the young boy flying away in a balloon somewhere in Colorado. Well, here's something that was done on purpose and actually was successful. The story comes to us from London. In a goofy yet mesmerizing stunt, an American adventurer crossed the English Channel on Friday, carried by a bundle of helium balloons, ending a quiet and serene flight by touching down in a French cabbage patch. Interestingly enough, the gentleman in the story is from right here in our home state, North Carolina. He's from Raleigh. Jonathan Trapp, 36, of Raleigh, North Carolina, was strapped in a specifically equipped chair below a bright cluster of balloons when he lifted off early Friday morning from Kent in southeast England. About 5 hours later, he lowered himself into a French field by cutting some of the balloons away. It was just an exceptional, quiet, peaceful experience, Trapp told Sky News Television, which covered the adventure. Asked why he went, Trapp said, "Didn't you have this dream, grabbing onto a bunch of toy balloons and floating off? I think it's something that's shared across cultures and across borders. Just this wonderful fantasy of grabbing onto toy balloons and floating into open space." Admittedly, I don't know if it was a dream, but I definitely had a fantasy about that, and that's probably what he meant. When I was young, I always thought it would be kind of cool to, get a whole bunch of helium-filled balloons and float off. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and tell myself right now, if someone from the FCC is listening, not the FCC, if someone from the, what is the one that controls all the planes? FDA is the Food and Drug. FTC is Federal Trade. Oh my goodness, my brain is blank. If you are listening and you are from the governing commission that governs our airways, please ignore this. It's past the statute of limitations anyhow. Many, many years ago, in 1993, I worked in a retail store that had a helium tank and a seemingly endless supply of balloons. And I got this bright idea one day that I thought it would be just incredibly fun to blow up a whole bunch of them and see if I could get stuff to float. And so I decided to start with an empty soda can, which I knew would be light because it was aluminum. And one or two was, got it off the ground. And then I thought, hey, actually it'd be kind of cool if I set one free. So I blew up, I can't remember exactly, but possibly 5, 6, 7, it was less than 10 balloons, and tied them all together and tied them and attached them to the aluminum can and took it out the back on the loading dock and let it go. And it just soared and soared, and it got pretty high up before it actually started moving parallel. Well, I guess you can't move parallel to something that's round, but you know what I mean. Moving along the landscape of the Earth versus, just going up perpendicular from the Earth. However, it didn't stop there. Me and a coworker or two of mine, one of which may have been Eric, my co-host, were so enamored by this activity, we decided to see what else we could get to take flight. I don't remember all the different things. I think we sent off a pen with our store name on it. We sent off a little note saying if you find this, to call this number, and we would give you a gift certificate to the store. But for the grand finale, I remember we had a very large cardboard box, and I don't know how many balloons, 50, 60, 80, I don't know. Dozens upon dozens upon dozens of balloons. And it looked kind of like a hot air balloon and the basket underneath it, and we let it take off. And I don't know why I'm even telling this, and I don't even know why we found it so amusing, but we did, and oh my goodness, it was fun. We got such a kick out of that. And when I was reading the story earlier, obviously this, kind of popped into mind. It's like I've never actually maybe fantasized about being carried away myself by balloons, but I followed this story back from '93. So continuing here. However, the channel crossing wasn't a matter of just grabbing a few balloons. Trapp says on his website that he made a scouting trip in March and gained clearance from French and British aviation authorities and from customs and immigration offices on both sides. His equipment list didn't stop at balloons and a chair, but included an aircraft transponder, oxygen system, aircraft radios, emergency locator beacon, in-flight satellite tracking, and a radio tracker. He had all the correct authorization, and I believe he even gave something to the owner of the land where he came down by way of damages, said a spokesman for French police. Last month, Trapp claimed the record for the longest free-floating balloon flight after spending 14 hours blowing in the wind over North Carolina and traveling 109 miles. On another flight, his website says he ascended to 17,930 feet just below controlled airspace. There are risks, and we work to methodically reduce the risk so we can have a safe and fun flight, said Trapp, who is certified for balloon flight by the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, there we go, because really it's only about dreams and enjoying adventure, and that's only enjoyable when it's safe. His crossing was much less eventful than the first balloon crossing of the English Channel in 1785. The pioneering French balloonist Jean-Pierre Francois Blanchard and John Jeffries, an American doctor who paid for the flight, set off in a hydrogen balloon which started leaking in flight. The pair dumped all their ballast and most of their clothes into the water and just managed to stay airborne and land in Calais. So, there we go. A man right here from Raleigh, North Carolina, making the news, crossing the English Channel, hooked up to nothing more than balloons. So congratulations to Jonathan Trapp. Thought that was a neat little story. I have yet to see, I have yet to see the Disney movie Up. However, I immediately saw that story as well, and I hope to see it because it looked like a cute movie. Here we shall move on to our next story. This is a cute story. This is about a young man and a young woman who were born at the same time, the same day, in the same hospital. Let's read the story. It comes to us from Easton, Pennsylvania. An engaged Eastern Pennsylvania couple were born on the same day in the same hospital, and their mothers even shared a room in the maternity ward. Amy Singley and Stephen Smith were born at St. Luke's Hospital in Fountain Hill on April 17, 1986. After their mothers were hospital roommates, the two families continued to interact through their church in Easton. Smith asked Singley on a date to the movies when they were sophomores in high school. Singley says she knew Smith was the right guy for her after her second date. She says people are convinced the 24-year-olds were destined to be together. They're getting married June the 12th. So to Amy Singley and Stephen Smith, congratulations on your forthcoming wedding a week from Saturday. We wish you all the best. Thought it was a cute story. Born same place, same day, and their families even kept in touch. Certainly a neat story there. It's not like me to go to depressing news. We try to have some good news. We try to have at least one good news story before going off to, funny, quirky, humorous stories. But I have a story here that I have to read. I don't want to read, but I feel that I have to read it, and it's a very disturbing story. It's quite disturbing, and I would hope that 100% of our listeners will find this equally as disturbing, which I am absolutely certain that you will. And I'm sorry ahead of time for even going down this path, but and I've just decided to do it. I'm going to shut up now and just move forward with it. This comes to us from Newberry, South Carolina. The shooting death of a black man whose body was dragged for several miles is being investigated as a possible hate crime after the arrest of a white man he worked with, says the South Carolina State Police. Gregory Collins, 19, is charged with murder and made his first court appearance Thursday. No bond was set. He didn't have an attorney. As far as I'm concerned, he doesn't need one. FBI was in Newberry County in central South Carolina Wednesday assisting in the investigation of the shooting death of Anthony Hill. We don't yet have a definitive motive for all this. His body was found 4:30 a.m. on U.S. Highway 176, and the sheriff's deputies followed a trail of blood to the home of Collins. For several hours, Collins refused to come out, and until agents fired tear gas in his home, prompting him to surrender. He was not armed when he was arrested, but he did have an empty pistol holster on his side. Hill died from a single gunshot wound to the head. Hill was dead before he was dragged. Hill and Collins worked together at a chicken processing plant in Newberry County. Neither man had a serious criminal record. There was some other evidence that linked the men that Lloyd did not want to discuss. We don't want to attribute something to Collins that isn't necessarily true, but out of precaution, given the circumstances, we are investigating the racial angle. The county sheriff said Collins and Hill spent most of Tuesday together, were at Collins' house late Tuesday evening into Wednesday morning when Hill was shot. Foster said Collins then attached a nylon rope around Hill's body and began dragging it behind his truck, apparently until the rope snapped several miles later. If you've listened to the show, you already know I don't even need to go into a rant for you to know how I feel about our judicial system. It's a joke. A trial by jury is absolutely a joke. The laws are created to protect criminals and not the actual victims of crimes. And everybody wants to cry and tear up and talk about victims and how sad, blah, 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 but they don't really mean it because they also support all these stupid laws and appeal processes which are built in place to protect pure evil criminals. And if you also listen to the show, you know I don't give one crap about hate crimes. We don't need extra legislation. We need to actually enforce the legislation we currently have. I don't care what the motive is. I don't care if this Collins kid is a white supremacist racist. No. If you care, that's fine. We should be allowed to have a difference of opinion. I honestly really don't care what his motive was. I really don't. If he is a racist, fine. If he's not a racist, fine. What we know is he's a murderer and he's evil. He shot the guy in the head. He tied a rope around the man's body, hooked it to his truck, and drug his dead body for several miles until the rope broke. I'm sorry. We don't need any extra legislation on this. This is a no-brainer. This guy is clearly a psychopath that has proven himself incapable of living in a civilized society. Therefore, the laws we have in place that say it's against the law of murder should be sufficient. We shouldn't need extra laws to deal with evil people such as this. And I'm going to shut up right there because I've had enough, and I don't want to bring us down too much. You know, just find a tree and hang him, and we'll be done with it. That's my solution. And we'll move on to some weird stories. We love weird stories here. Odd, weird, you name it. There's lots of weird stuff going on here. Let me see what we got here. We have a story about drop diapers coming up. I think you're going to enjoy it. If you have the same sense of humor that Eric and I have, which is usually disturbing to most people, but if you're listening to the show and you've listened this long, you obviously don't mind it or have the same type of humor. that's what you have to look forward to. However, this next story, Los Angeles, California, authorities say a used car dealer is headed to prison for fraud despite attempting to place a voodoo hex on prosecutors handling his case in Los Angeles. 34-year-old Ruben Hernandez was sentenced Wednesday to 12 years after being convicted of using false Social Security information and bank statements to buy properties. Hernandez was arrested in February 2009 after being a fugitive for a year. Authorities searched his home and found a shrine with voodoo dolls dunked headfirst in cups of water with pins in their eyes. Officials say the case number and names of the prosecutor and investigators were written on the dolls. Hernandez was convicted in May of 4 counts of filing a false application and 3 counts of grand theft. He's ordered to return to court next Wednesday to face 28 additional accounts. So I think this story either A, debunks voodoo as a fraud, or B, at the very least proves that Hernandez is not very good at voodoo. I think the latter is the better explanation of the two. The next story is from Athens, Ohio. An Ohio woman needed animal control, not a mechanic, when it turned out the thumping under her car's hood was coming from a stowaway groundhog. Rebecca Martin said she heard the noise late Tuesday while running errands with other family members in Athens and southeastern Ohio. When they pulled over in a Walmart parking lot and lifted the hood, Martin said up popped one of the largest groundhogs she had ever seen. It then chose to burrow in near the engine, so she called 911. Athens County Dog Warden Jeff Coons responded, and it took him more than 5 minutes to get the critter to come out. When it finally did, they didn't know if it saw a shadow or not. When it finally did, it scurried across Martin's feet and eluded Coons for another half hour, hiding under cars. He captured the groundhog and released it in a rural area. So, don't know what was going on there. But apparently they will know now in southeastern Ohio if spring will be over soon or not, if winter will be over. I don't know. I'm going to stop with that joke if it doesn't work. We've had several stories about people calling 911 on the show when it was completely unnecessary. And as a matter of fact, some of those stories have, taken place in Florida. The one that's coming to mind right now was the lady that called 911 because the Burger King I think it was McDonald's didn't have her chicken nuggets, and they offered to give her something else or her money back, and she called 911 because she wanted her chicken nuggets. I think another one was a lady had ordered shrimp plate and didn't get the shrimp, as many shrimp as she thought she deserved or something, and she called 911. However, we've said multiple times on the show, don't call 911 unless it's an emergency or if you really, truly need it. This story comes to us from Newport Richey, Florida. Again, another Florida story about someone calling 911 and abusing it. A 32-year-old Pasco County man who called 911 to complain about his mother is facing criminal charges. According to a sheriff's office arrest report, Charles Dennison told a deputy that his mother took his beer and he wanted her arrested. Dennison was reportedly very intoxicated when the deputy arrived at the Newport Richey home. Dennison told the deputy that he would keep calling emergency responders if his mother wasn't charged. He has been charged with making false 911 calls and was jailed on a $150 bond. Wow, $150. I mean, what's the point of even putting bond on him if this is $150? I don't know. Put him in jail, let him sober up, and tell him if it happens again, he's going to, get significantly more jail time. Maybe he'll think about that nonsense. However, I mean, if my mother did steal something from me, I don't think I would be calling 911 on my own mother. Seems ridiculous, as a matter of fact. In addition to the diaper story, we also have a story that's going to make you maybe a little squeamish, especially if you're a man. This next story comes to us, a funeral home story. We have several of those in the weird news. From Wellington, Australia, we've had several, well, it says Wellington, Australia, but it's about a New Zealand funeral home. A New Zealand funeral home has stepped in to stop a fake mourner who was attending up to 4 funerals a week to stock up on food, even filling up Tupperware containers to take home. They are dubbing this person the Grim Eater. Harbour City Funeral Home Director Danny Langstrit told the local newspaper that the Grim Eater appeared at up to 4 funerals a week in March and April to enjoy the finger food, but clearly did not know the deceased. The funeral company grew so concerned that it took a photograph of the man, thought to be aged in his 40s, and distributed the picture to its branches. Certainly he had a backpack with him, some Tupperware containers, so when people weren't looking, he was stocking up. He said the man was always very quiet and polite and did as the rest of the mourners did in paying his respects. Langstrit said the man stopped coming after one staff member took him aside and told him he could come to funerals but could not take food home with him. Funeral Directors Association President Tony Gehring told the newspaper that such cases happen in the industry occasionally, but it was difficult to stop people from coming or call their behavior theft because funerals were usually public events. And while they may be public events, if you're going to a funeral and you don't know the deceased and you're going just to get the free food, that's pretty low. Maybe pick a wedding to crash and get some free food on. But, you know, let the mourning families mourn in peace. Seriously, what's wrong with you people? Wow, I'm not even going to read this whole story. First of all, it's long, and second of all, I want to have time for my little side rant. It's basically there's this a groin punch game called sack tapping attacks are on the rise. Though most won't admit it unless they have to, more teenage boys are being treated after cringeworthy attacks in which they're slapped or punched in the groin, sometimes causing serious harm requiring surgery. A poll of 100 urologists showed that 30% of the doctors have seen or treated preteen and teen boys for testicular trauma in the past year by so-called sap tapping, in which boys ambush others at school and elsewhere. I'm not even going to read any more of this, but this is absolutely ridiculous. First of all, you know, and I'm not homophobic. I'm not. But regardless if they want to admit it or not, most preteen and teenage boys are either homophobic because they have homosexual tendencies or because they're, you know, unsure about themselves. Because I hear them. They're always cracking on each other about things. Take a few minutes to sit back and think. If you're going around like physically handling some other boy's ball sack, shall I say, on the air, kind of sit down and think about that for a while. Second of all, don't do it. That's stupid. You would not want someone to do it to you. You know it hurts. Quit being an idiot. Third of all, let's quit punishing kids that defend themselves so that they can defend themselves and put a stop to stuff like this. I had someone do this to me when I was in the 7th grade. Or was it the 8th grade? I don't, either 7th or the 8th grade. And I will not go into what I did to him. But let's just say, after I finished doing to him what I did to him, he never touched me again, and he never touched any other person at our school again. The message went across crystal clear. He was not in any kind of, life-threatening position. And the issue was resolved, and he quit this nonsense. If you're a young man and you're listening, if someone does this to you, as soon as you recover, go beat the absolute snot out of them. Tell them you heard it from me. Tell your principal, if they don't agree with it, that your principal is an idiot. This is a very serious thing. You could make someone sterile for life. You could have someone have to go have a very serious surgery. And quit fondling other boys' genitalia. What's wrong with you? That's creepy regardless of your sexual orientation. It's out of control. People are just idiots. So every year they have the world's ugliest dog. And more often than not, it's the Chinese crested dog, Chinese crested hairless, which they are about the ugliest creature you've ever seen. Miss Ellie won the world's ugliest dog last year in June, and she has now passed at the ripe old age of 17. Go out and do a search for world's ugliest dog. You can see this poor thing is homely and ugly, pitiful looking thing. I'm sure they can be an entertaining, sweet dog, but my goodness, I'm not sure how that's possible, as ugly as they are. Okay, we have had a story about sack tapping. Here's a related story. I told you this is going to make you cringe, especially if you're a guy. This comes to us from Seattle. Police said a man accidentally shot himself in the testicles at a Linwood department store. Police spokeswoman Shannon Sessions said the man was carrying his handgun in his waistband, and it accidentally went off about noon Sunday. She said he was wounded in the testicles and also in his leg and foot. No one else was hurt. He was rushed to a medical center in Seattle, but there's no immediate word on his condition. I think maybe here, if you're going to carry a gun, maybe you should get a holster and not put it in your waistband. That's fairly stupid in and of itself. And then you may go do something like this guy did and shoot yourself in the ball sack. And that, I'm sure, is not very pleasant. Let's see how long my show finale story. Ugh. Let's see here. Got 2 stories left. This one is about a little bit longer, but it's about protesters. People. Oh my God. People are out of control. Our country, I don't know what's happening. There are these people that are protesting spelling bees. The nation's capital always draws its share of protesters, picketing for causes ranging from healthcare to immigration policy. But spelling bees? Yep. They're out there too. 4 peaceful protesters, some dressed in full-length black and yellow bee costumes, represented the American Literacy Council and the London-based Spelling Society and stood outside the Grand Hyatt on Thursday, where the Scripps National Spelling Bee is being held. Their message was short: simplify the way we spell words. Our alphabet has 425 plus ways of putting words together in illogical ways. their their logo is enough is enough. ENUF. Enough is too much. Spelled out correctly. I mean, they said that fruit should be spelled as FROOT. Slow should be SLO. Heifer, a word spelled correctly during the first oral round of the spelling bee Thursday, should be HEFER. Wow. Just absolute stupidity. I mean, seriously, if that's your cause, is trying to change the English language, the way we spell words, and one of these people, I think, is a former principal, so shame on her. Here's the last story we got. This comes to us from Wisconsin, or as they say there, Wisconsin. An Amherst man accused of trying to steal dirty diapers from a home has been sentenced to 30 months of probation. Dylan McCuskey, 20 years old, was convicted of possession of burglary tools. The Stephensport Journal reports McCuskey also must serve 200 hours of community service and undergo a psychosexual examination. McCuskey was detained by the homeowner after entering an Amherst home last September. A Portage County Sheriff's deputy found 6 dirty diapers in his pockets. The complaint said McCuskey entered the house because he likes to wear diapers and thought there might be some in the house. According to the complaint, when asked whether intended to steal dirty diapers, McCuskey said yes. So I don't know if he needs a psychosexual examination. I think he may need to be institutionalized. Different people like different things, but if you're a 30-year-old man, a 20-year-old man, and you're wanting to wear diapers, obviously you're mentally ill. If you're a 20-year-old man and you're stealing diapers to wear, you're obviously mentally ill. If you're a 20-year-old man stealing diapers to wear, and you are intentionally and knowingly stealing dirty, soiled diapers, then in my opinion, you are absolutely, positively mentally sick and proving yourself incapable of living in a civilized society. Therefore, this guy needs to be institutionalized. He doesn't need to be psychoanalyzed. He needs to be put away because he's obviously mentally perturbed. Our sheep award goes to Collins from South Carolina. Perpetrating evil. And that's it. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and we'll catch you guys next week.
This has been Blog Talk Radio's The Incoherent Ramblings of CNE. Christopher and Eric are your hosts, and we would like to thank you for listening to our show today. Don't forget to tune in for next week's show, live from Greensboro, North Carolina, as we are every Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Time.
Hey, Bernice and Joy, tell everyone which power wheelchair got you to the Grand Canyon.
Have a